everyone. My name is Dr. Nagaraju, working as Assistant Professor in the Department of CSE A&ML, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Hyderabad. So today we are going to learn a concept called as knowledge representation issues. So in the earlier session, we have discussed what is the importance of knowledge representation, and we have also discussed how this knowledge representation is most useful in order to solve the AI related kind of problems. So in today's session, we will try to understand what are the different issues that what we need to consider during the time of this knowledge representation. So coming to the topics what we are going to cover in today's session is the first one is called as representations and mappings. Then after we will try to understand what do you mean by the use of representations, and later on we will try to understand what this AI program will do. Okay, so our concentration will be in handling the different issues that is going to arise in the representation of the knowledge. So coming to the knowledge representation, we can very much clearly say that this knowledge representation will be very much helpful for us in order to solve the different kinds of problems which are related to AI. So we can clearly mention that for any kind of AI problems solving, that completely depends upon the way how we are representing the knowledge. And even we can say there are several knowledge representation models which are going to be helpful in solving the AI problems also. So first we will try to understand what this knowledge representation is going to be helpful for us. So as I mentioned here, the knowledge representation models or knowledge representations are going to allow us in order to specify the most powerful problem solving mechanisms. Means it is going to explain us, or it is going to showcase us how a AI related problem can be solved by by certain kind of mechanism. So what kind of criteria or what kind of procedure we should supposed to follow in order to solve such kind of problems, that we will come to know with the knowledge representation. So we can also say that for solving AI kind of problems, knowledge representation is very much important. And also in the earlier sessions we have discussed that this knowledge gaining should be the iterative process. Means before representing the knowledge, you should supposed to have enough quantity of knowledge with us, so that by using such kind of knowledge we can easily able to get the solution for a problem. So knowledge representation, we can say that it is going to be more specific. Why it is more specific means it is making us to design. It is making us to design, or it is making us to make use of certain kind of problem solving mechanisms which we are going to use in order to solve some kind of problems. Okay, so if the problems are so simple problems, then it will be very much fine. Means just having a knowledge with us, less quantity of knowledge with us, then directly we can go for solving of the problems. But when it comes to the complex problems, so it will be very much important for us to represent the knowledge in a proper way. So that's why we can say that when we are solving certain kind of complex problems, we need to have the large amount of knowledge. So this is very important. So that's why we say that acquisition of knowledge is very much important in order to get a better solution for a given problem. So how this knowledge acquisition can be done means it should be an iterative process. Every time we need to acquire this knowledge by observing from the surroundings, or by taking the advice from other people in the sense here, the experts, the people who are expertise in that particular domain. So we need to interact regularly with those people, and we have to keep on collecting the knowledge. So this knowledge need to be added to the existing knowledge in order to make that knowledge more effective and also more meaningful. So that's why whenever it is a complex problem, so our primary concentration should be on the quantity of the knowledge. And also we need to have certain kind of mechanisms. Why? Because until and unless you do some kind of manipulations to the existing knowledge, you cannot able to apply it to a certain kind of problem. So that's why what the knowledge representation will tell us is, we can say that it is a one kind of issue while representing the knowledge. What is that? While solving the complex problems, it is very much important to have the large quantity of knowledge with us, and at the same time we need to have some certain kind of mechanisms or certain kind of procedures through which we can able to easily manipulate that knowledge, and also we can apply that knowledge to the AI problems like that. So sometimes even what happens, even if you do certain kind of manipulations to the existing knowledge base, definitely it will give you the solutions to the new problems also. Okay, so that kind of thing. So in simple words, we can say that just having the knowledge, uh, just representing the knowledge in a proper way does not make any sense until and unless there is a possibility to manipulate such kind of knowledge. So what happens here, once the knowledge manipulation is applicable or possible, then easily we can make use of that knowledge in order to get the solutions for even the other kind of problems also. So now the question comes is, what is knowledge representation generally going to have? So we can simply say that it is some two element kind of problem. So in this, what happens, the first thing is the fact. Okay, fact, or we can say facts. Okay, so the knowledge representation is going to be completely depend upon the facts what you are representing. For example, if you are talking about the climatic conditions outside, then you are going to acquire certain kind of knowledge by doing by observing the surroundings, or otherwise by taking the data from the other people who has already observed. So in that case, what happens, the we are going to get certain kind of knowledge. So what is such kind of knowledge? Maybe it may be raining, or otherwise the temperature outside may be very high. So it is raining outside, or the temperature is very high, more than 20 degrees, or some such kind of observations. Whenever we write it in a general English form, then we can say that those things are the facts. So in simple words, we can understand that the knowledge representation, in the knowledge representation, we are going to represent the facts what we have observed from the surroundings, means from the real world, or what we have obtained or acquired from the other people or from the other programs, we can say. So a variety of such kind of knowledge representations have been exploited in the various AI programs. So once there are several once there are several ways of representing such kind of knowledge, then it will be our primary duty to select the best applicable one. So our concentration should be, definitely we need to analyze, means before choosing a particular method, you should supposed to analyze which one is going to be the best possible, best suitable method to a AI problem. Why? Because the based upon the AI problem, the method of choosing a particular knowledge representation is going to be different. So that's why we need to have, means we need to perform a proper analysis in order to get in order to select such kind of the knowledge representation. So in simple words, we can say which knowledge representation, means what kind of knowledge representation is going to be suitable for what kind of problem. It should be like that. So let us try to consider some of the problems. So especially in this case, we are going to consider about two things. One is called as fact, and the other thing is called as a representations. Okay, so what is a fact? Means what is the things you have observed, and at the same time how you have been represented, means how you have represented that fact. So as we know that whenever we do such some kind of observations from surroundings, or trying to whenever we try to acquire some knowledge from the other human experts, then generally we will try to represent such kind of knowledge in the English form. Okay, so that English form for certain kind of applications it may be enough, but for some kind of problems we need to change the representation of such kind of knowledge. So we can say that we at that particular case we need to choose, or we need to select certain kind of formalism, so that we can convert or we can represent the same knowledge, means the same knowledge which we have represented in English in the earlier case need to be represented, or need to be changed, or need to be converted into a different form. So that's why in the knowledge representation, the primary thing we need to consider is what are the facts we have been collected, or what are the facts we need to collect, and at the same time what kind of representation of such kind of facts need to be done. Whether the general English representation is enough, or we need to go for the conversion of that knowledge, English knowledge into any kind of formalism like that. Okay, so as we know that if whenever we are talking about AI problems, representing the knowledge in the English will not make any sense. So what we have to do, we need to convert it into the symbolic representations. Okay, so the English kind of knowledge representation need to be converted into the symbolic representations, so that it can be very easy for a AI program to understand. Okay, so let us try to understand this thing, which we call it as the structuring the entities. Structuring the entities means in what way we are going to structure the entities. So we can say that there are two different levels where we are going to represent or where we are going to structure the entities. So one level we can call it as a knowledge level. So in the knowledge level, so whatever the things we have observed or whatever the knowledge what we have acquired, those knowledge we are going to describe. So describing such kind of knowledge or describing such kind of knowledge in the form of facts, then we can say that it is a knowledge level structuring of entities. So once it is done, our next duty is we need to represent the same thing in the symbolic form. So in simple words, we can understand that this knowledge level is suitable for the humans to understand. But when it comes to the machines, we need to represent the same kind of facts or same kind of knowledge even in the symbolic level also. So that's why there will be two different levels or two different ways where we can structure the entities. The first level we can say for the humans purpose, and the second level we can say that for the AI programs purpose. So in this case, what we do is we will try to represent the objects. Means whatever the objects we have been identified in the knowledge level, such kind of objects representation will be done in the form of certain kind of symbols, we can say. So that's why we can explain them as defined in terms of symbols. I'm repeating the same statement once again. The objects whatever we have identified are the facts whatever we have been collected in the earlier case and kept in the knowledge level. The same facts or the same knowledge or the same objects are going to be represented by using certain kind of symbols. So what is the advantage of representing those things in the symbol form? Means it will be very easy for us in order to manipulate. So manipulate by whom? Manipulate by the programs. Okay, so in simple words, we can say this is for human purpose, knowledge level is for the human purpose to understand, and the symbolic level is for the AI programs purpose. So let us try to give a mapping between the facts and the representations. Okay, so if you are focusing on the representations, then we can clearly say that it is a two-way mapping representation. It should be a two-way mapping representation. Why? Because there must be like that. Okay, so we can say that we are going to have some kind of facts. There will be some kind of facts and there will be some kind of representations. Means in what way we are doing the representations. In simple words, we can say that these representations can be of internal representations or it can be external representations. Okay, so when you are representing these facts in the internal way or in the external representations, then such kind of mapping, means the mapping between the facts and the representations should be the two-way mapping. So it should be from facts to representations and it must be from representations to the facts. So whenever you are doing or whenever you are mentioning or visualizing the mapping that is from facts to representations, then we can say such kind of mapping as forward mapping. At the same time, if you are doing in the reverse way means here mapping from the representations to the facts, then we can say that it is a backward mapping. So we can in simple words, we can understand with this visualization that whenever you are giving some arrow mark from facts to representations, then we can say that it is some kind of forward mapping representation. Whenever you are showing the representation to the facts, means whenever you are showing some kind of association or some kind of relationship between the representations and the facts, okay, means moving from the representations towards the facts, then we can say that it is a backward mapping. Okay, so the mapping can be done either in the forward direction or in the backward direction. But most of the cases, if your knowledge representation is to be effective, then you should supposed to map in the two-way. It should not be one-way representation. Okay. So let us try to understand that mapping by using this simple example, this diagram also. So this diagram is going to talk about the mappings between the facts and the representations. So what happened? First, we are having certain kind of facts. These facts we are representing for the internal purpose. So we can say that it is a internal representations. Okay, from the internal representations, we are going to have this one. So we can say that in this particular case we are going to talk even about the natural language processing also. Okay, so what is going to happen here? It is going to be some natural language processing. So why it is called as natural language processing means from the internal representations. From the internal representations of the facts, we are trying to generate the English knowledge representation. Means the knowledge representation in the form of English. So we can say that it is also some kind of natural language processing only. And if you talk from this particular line, from this particular box, means from the English representation to the internal representation. So here internal representations means it is program related representations, we can say. Okay, AI program related representations. That means that these representations will be in the form of logic. So here from the internal representations, if you could able to do a mapping to the English representations, then we can say it is certain kind of some natural language processing. At the same time, if you could able to extract, or if you could able to get the English, get the internal representations, do the English internal representations from the English representations, then we can say that it is English language understanding, or we can say natural language understanding. Okay, so the representation should be like this. Every time it should be a two-way mapping. It should not be a one-way mapping. Okay. So one representation of facts is almost all, it is having some special mention. So what is that? Natural language, particularly the English sentences. So we can in simple words also we can understand that these internal representations are for the program's purpose, which will be represented in the form of some symbols. But when it comes to the humans, all the representations we are going to make it in the English only, in natural language, so that it will be very easy for the humans also to understand. So the English representation of English representations of these facts, in order to facilitate getting information into and out of the system. So these arrow marks are going to talk about the same point. So let us try to take some examples and we will try to understand how these representations are going to be different. Okay. For example, if you talk about this one, using the mathematical logic as the representational formalism. Okay. So you try to understand, you try to consider this particular statement. What is that? Spot is a dog. So what happened here? We have done the English representation. So this is called as the English representation here. English representation in the sense what we have observed or what we have obtained or acquired from the surroundings or from the experts. So what is the knowledge what we have obtained? Spot is a dog. But if you give this Spot is a dog to an AI program, it will not understand anything. So what we have to do? We need to represent the same knowledge in a different way. The same knowledge in the different way. So in this particular case, we are trying to represent the same knowledge in the form of logic. So in that case, what happens? The same statement, what is that? Spot is a dog, is going to be represented in this particular way. Dog, Spot. So here, how we need to understand? So what is this is Spot. So what is this Spot? Spot is a dog. So this kind of representation, generally we call it as a logic representation. Generally we use prologue language, and we will try to understand how these logic representations will be done in the upcoming sessions. Okay, so first we are having certain kind of English representation. From the English representation, we are trying to convert the fact. Of course, this is a fact. Spot is a dog is a fact. So this fact we are trying to convert, or we are trying to represent in a different way. In a different way in the sense, in the logic form, and we are converting, or we are changing the statement, same statement like this. Dog, Spot. Okay. So suppose that there is some logical representations are there. So what do you mean by logical representation? So what is that logical representation? Means there is a fact that all dogs have tails. All dogs have tails. So how we need to represent it? Just now we discussed that in the symbolic level, we are going to represent the same knowledge by using certain kind of symbols. So what is the symbols we are using here for all the employees? Okay, so these are the two symbols we are using. So what is the main reason of using these symbols? Means here we are talking about a particular fact that all dogs So whenever I say it as all dogs, so how we need to represent it? Means in the form of logic, if you want to represent it, so you should suppose to use the symbol called as for all. Okay, for all. Why? Because we are talking about all the dogs, not just the Spot. Okay, so for all the dogs representation, I am making like this. You try to understand, whenever we are doing this kind of representation is called as a predicate logic representation. So in this case, we need to understand in this particular way. From we can say from right to left. So for all x here. So what is the x? X is nothing but the dog. The x is nothing but the dog. Means whatever the dogs, means whatever whichever be the dog is there, definitely the dog is going to have the tail. Of course, in real time it may not be correct, but for the given fact, this statement is correct. So what this statement is talking about, for all the dogs, so what is a dog here? How we are representing the dog? With x. So whenever I say for all x, that means that for all dogs. It is like that. For all dogs, what is going to happen implies has tail. So even if you discuss in an individual way also, you will get some kind of meaning. What is that? Has tail. Who is having the tail? X is having the tail. So who is x here? X is the dog. So if you ignore this particular case, what happens? That means that we are talking about only one particular dog. But in the fact representation, it has been mentioned it as all. So whenever it is all, for representing such kind of all, we are making use of for all x. Okay, so we can represent like this. If you ignore this, we can write like, first it will be dog x. So what we are doing, we are taking some variable x, okay, so which to represent the dog. So what is dog? The dog is going to has a tail. It is going to has tail. So individually, if you talk has tail, to which one it is having tail? To x. So what is x here? X is a dog. So as it is as we are talking about all the dogs, it should be for all x. Okay, so the representation will be like this. Means this example or this particular slide is talking about how the knowledge representations can be done in different ways. So one is, in the first initial state, we have represented the knowledge or the fact in the English representation. Later on, we went to represent the same knowledge in the logic form. Okay, so we can say that it is very clear that these kind of representations are called as predicate logic representations. So that's why we can say that we can also say that these kind of representations are at the symbolic level. They are at the symbolic level, the second structuring of the entities. So this one is in the we can say it is at the knowledge level. It is at the knowledge level. Okay, so that depends upon the application, right? For example, if your application is related to natural language processing, it's not necessary to represent that in the form of predicate logic. Okay, directly you can make use of this NLP and you can make use of the knowledge whatever you have. Okay, but when you are trying to solve the complex problems which are not related to this natural language processing, then definitely you should suppose to represent the knowledge in the symbolic form. That means either you should suppose to use any logic representation. Means either you have to use propositional logic or you have to use predicate logic to convert the same representation into the symbolic representation. So individually, if we talk about individually, so what we are doing, we are trying to deduce some deductive mechanism. We will try to understand what do you mean by this deductive mechanism. So thus, using the deductive mechanism of logic, we can generate the new representations. Means such kind of representations not only help us in order to represent the existing fact, but also it will allow us to generate the new knowledge also. So how it will be? For example, if this is the representation, what is that? Has tail. So what is has tail? To whom it is having tail? Spot. Spot has tail. Spot has tail. But in the initial case, what we have done? In the fact, we have been mentioned that Spot is a dog. When Spot is a dog, You try to understand. When the spot is a dog and when the spot is having a tail, definitely we can say that a dog will have a tail, and at the same time even we can say that spot has a tail. So you try. I am repeating the same sentence once again. You see, spot has a tail. So this is the representation we are doing. But initially, what we are telling, spot is a dog. When spot is a dog, that means that we can say that this one, dog has a tail. Dog has a tail. So we are trying to deduce the more knowledge from the existing one. How it will be? Dog has a tail. So when the dog has a tail, then we can say that in the initial case we have said that spot is a dog. Spot is a dog. When spot is a dog and when dog has a tail, then definitely we can say that spot has a tail. Spot has a tail. So these kind of extraction of new things or extraction of new representations will be called as the deductive mechanism of logic. Okay, so using an appropriate backward mapping function, we are generating this English sentence. Backward chaining means moving from the representations to the facts. So in that case, we are proving that spot is also having a tail. Why? Because already we have proved that spot is a dog. When spot is a dog, when every dog is having a tail, then definitely even we can say that spot has a tail. It will be like that. Okay, so how we are going to make use of these representations? So these representations are going to make use in order to for a new fact to cause to some appropriate action or to derive the representations of additional knowledge or additional facts. So we need to keep these things in mind. What is that? Especially about the mappings. The mapping should be always many to many. It should not be one to one. Or in simple words, we can say that the knowledge representations should be too general. It should not be too specific. Okay, when it is too specific, it is going to be applicable only to one particular problem. But when you could able to represent the knowledge in the generalized form, so you can make use of that knowledge to solve the similar kind of any number of problems. Okay, so that's why it should be. So when we talk about the mappings, the mapping should be always it should be many to many. It should not be one to one. That's why we say that even many to many, or we can say it is a two-way mapping. There should be definitely a two-way mapping. So definitely it is going to be true. Means this kind of mapping should be true whenever we are representing the facts in the English. So let us try to understand some more examples. What is that? All dogs has tail. So we can consider this one. Means here by using some deductive mechanisms, we are able to extract these much more number of knowledge, more quantity of knowledge, we can say, more facts also we can say. So what are the new things we have extracted, we have generated? Means all dogs have tails, every dog has a tail, every dog has at least one tail, each dog has several tails, and there is a tail that every dog has. So like this, we could able to extract more information from the existing knowledge. So how we could able to get it means by representing the knowledge in the different ways. Okay, so we must first decide. Means before deducing these kind of knowledge representations, we should suppose to decide what facts the sentence represents and how to convert those facts into the new representations. These things you need to consider. Okay, so let us talk about the other topic of today's session. What is that? What an AI program does. So generally what the AI program is going to support us for us, especially. So we can say that it will allow us in order to manipulate the internal representations of the facts. You try to understand. There should not be any confusion in this particular point. The AI programs are not going to change the representations. It is not going to change the representations. Only it is going to manipulate the internal representation of the fact. Means it is not a kind of overwriting of the existing facts, but it is a kind of representing the same fact in a different way. Okay, so how we can do it means the AI program is going to support us in that particular case. Okay, so what the AI program will do, it will support us in order to do the manipulations of the internal representations. So what happens if we do the manipulation of internal representations means we are going to get the new structures. We are going to get the new structures that can be interpreted as internal representation of the facts. Means the extraction of new structures are completely going to depend upon the way how AI program is manipulating the internal representation of the fact. So even we can say that these structures should be in the internal representation of fact that corresponds to the answer to the problem. So whenever you could able to have new structures, then definitely some structure is going to give a solution to your problem. Means having just one kind of representation or having just one structure of your knowledge may not be in a stage to give the answer to your problem. So whenever you try to represent the same kind of knowledge in different ways, then definitely one of the way will definitely will give the answer to your problem. Okay, now we will try to understand how this will be. For example, you see these are the internal facts. From the internal fact, definitely what we have to do, we need to find out, or we need to able to get the final facts. So from the facts, what we are doing, we are giving a mapping to the internal representations. So whenever such kind of mapping is there, it is called as a forward mapping, or we can say forward representation mapping. So in simple words, we can understand the forward representation mapping is a mapping which is going to show the association from the initial facts to the internal representation of those facts. Okay, if you could able to extract, means if you could able to get the final facts from these internal fact representations, then we can say that it is a backward representation mapping. Okay, so as we discussed, mapping can be either in one of the way. It should not be one to one. It should be definitely many to many. So in that case, what happens? Many to many, and at the same time, it should be two way. Means from the fact there should be an association towards representation, and at the same time, from the representations there should be a mapping towards the facts. Okay, so that's why we can easily say that it need to be represented just like a circular way. Okay, it should not be the one way. So the figure is going to look like a general programming book. It's going to look general in a general programming book. How it is means by describing the relationship. By describing the relationship between the abstract data type and the concrete implementation of that type. So we can say that at this particular level, these are the abstract classes or the abstract level representation of the knowledge. And at this particular level, it is going to be the concrete. Okay, it is going to be the concrete implementation. Okay, so concrete means everything it is going to be in the abstracted way. But how the representation of these facts are, that is going to be explained or described by the concrete implementation of that type. So this is all about the different issues that we need to consider during the time of knowledge representations. And whatever the content I have used during this presentation, that I have collected from this particular textbook. So this is all about today's session, and we will try to come up with another session in the next session. Okay, till the thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.